I stand right here and block my partner Dave Binkley, we're good to go. This is Dave Binkley. Thank you very much, because after all, he's the guy who has the Word Is Really Bad movie in Spaceship One. Not that we're doing any kind of a plug, but these are two of our cast members from a project we did, and we debuted at Ghoulardi in 2019. They're both in episodes of Spaceship One. So anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here because we're all fans.
Is the seat available?
Talk to these guys and say, so what have you been up to for the past 40-some years?
Before we do that, last week was how much John got paid for sketches. So here's your $12. Bob, we found out how much you got paid, so we can't afford you. I'm sorry.
So he gets it back. Okay. Anyway, we'll take some questions in a bit, but we want to go ahead and just kind of give these guys a chance just to kind of tell you a little bit about everything that you want to know. And what would be the best first question, Dave?
I don't want to tell them.
Right. You know, why don't you just raise their hand and point to them?
That sounds like a better idea, because, I mean, who has a hand? Who has a question for Hoolihan? Anybody? Right here.
All of one. Hey, that's cool. Hi, this is my one fan here. Hi there. What was your name? What was your name again?
So I've been watching you from the very beginning, 1967.
Well, I was born in 1933, so you weren't around then.
Stalker!
You have a question?
Yeah, I know you did some movies, right?
I did about 5, 3 of which hit the air. The others are sitting on the shelf someplace because the money guy said, I don't have any more money. They never finished it.
I was looking for you. Is there another Bob Wells actor?
There are at least 2 more. One was, I think, a football player, and the other is, I guess he's either my age or slightly older, and I don't know what the heck he's famous for, but he shows up on the screen.
I was trying to find you like in some of the Beatnik movie, but I didn't know that was you.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing that last part.
It was a Beatnik movie, a movie about beatniks.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And the Beatniks, yeah. Were you in that?
Yeah.
Stole my question. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that was when I was just a young lad, you know. And then, of course, Summer Rental was my most fun movie and the one that people seem to like. Well, I mean, how could you not like John Candy, right? And you know when that was? 1985. And I got like 3 weeks of work out of it. And you might be interested to know that nobody has ever in his lifetime said a bad word about John Candy. And I realized why when we were talking with him. Now, that was his first starring role. He was always somebody's buddy before this, but it was the first starring role. Working with famed director Carl Reiner and me, of course. But I played Richard Crenna's lawyer in that. And my wife was in it too. I don't think most people realize that. In 2 roles, at the very beginning of the movie and at the very end. But in different characters. But I mean, an hour and a half later, who cares? You know, do I recognize? No, I don't remember that. Whatever. Anyway, so we both did the movie, and we still get residuals, even though she passed away, you know, 17 years ago. And I signed for her. Is anybody here from SAG or IRS as far as that goes? But anyway, it was a good time. Nice guy, absolutely a nice guy.
Very good. Now, just to kind of get everybody caught up, obviously the Hoolihan and Big Chuck show came up after Ernie Anderson packed up and said to Chuck, "Here, take my stuff." So,
I've never heard that put in that way before.
Well, let's kind of clarify how you became Chuck's on-air partner,
right.
And then after that, why don't we go ahead and, I'd love to hear how you got started with the show itself back when it was still the Hoolihan and Big Chuck show.
So what was the question again? I'm 91, I don't remember everything. Okay, well, now, you remember when Ernie Anderson, Ghoulardi, had done his show for like 3 years. Fantastic success. I mean, totally unusual. I mean, against authority, kids loved him for that, you know how kids are. And so he came on in, what, 63, I guess it was? Yeah, and went to 66, as it turns out. And now he was good friends with Tim Conway's. Now, Tim was from like Sugar and Falls, right? And Ernie had this show called Ernie's Place, and he would bring in Tim Conway as a mayor or a chief of police or whatever. And of course, it was never them, it was always Tim. And that's how he cut his comedy teeth, if you will, is being on Chuck in Ernie's show. So came the time when, you know, Tim got the itch to see how far he could go in the business. He was already very popular in this area, but nobody knew him in LA, and that's where the money is. You know? So he went out there. Well, it's kind of a funny bit because you remember Rose Marie from the Dick Van Dyke Show? She came to town one day. I don't know why, but anyway, she came and watched Ernie's Place with Ernie and Tim. And it was like, loved him, hated her, you know, one of those things. Except, I mean, she didn't care that much for what Ernie did, but absolutely loved Tim. And so she goes back to Hollywood, good friends of Steve Allen, who at the time had The Tonight Show, and had this cast of characters called The Man on the Street. Tom Poston, Louis Nye, and now Tim Conway. So that's how Tim got his start out there. So he's out there for a while, a couple of years, and I think he had his own show by that time. 13 weeks, you know, really famous. So anyway, we had the situation where I lost my train of thought. My train got derailed. Anyway, so Tim called Ernie one day and said, hey, you know, I know you're doing well, and there's Ghoulardi, and he had 75% of the audience on Friday nights. Who does that, you know? And so he's called him and says, hey, why don't you come out and visit here in LA? And I'll show you around, introduce you to my agent and all of that. And so he does. Ernie goes out there. Ostensibly for vacation, working vacation, so left the wife and family behind. So the agent signed him on, you know, and while he was there, the agent said, no, I've got 2 national commercials I think you ought to audition for. I think you'd be right for it. Okay, why not? You know, at that time, if you did a national commercial and it ran for 13 weeks, this is just the voice, not the face. I mean, of course, Ernie with that voice, holy smoke, the love boat, you know, and all that. And so he goes on that audition. Now there were 2 national spots that were up for grabs, as it were. So he auditioned for both of them. One was Lincoln Mercury, and I forget the other sponsor. But remember C. Hunt and Lloyd Bridges? Well, his agent called the producer of one of those commercials, and he says, what do you want this nobody for? I can get you Lloyd Bridges for the same price. And the guy said, oh, well, okay, we'll do that. So Ernie lost the 1 spot. But bottom line, before that happened, that agent sent all his other voiceover talent. So, see if they can get the $20,000. And every other agent in town sent their top voiceover people for those same 2 commercials. Ernie won both commercials. Then lost it to Lloyd Bridges, so there $10,000 went flying by. But I mean, imagine going out for like 10 days and you're got $10,000 in your pocket going home. Logically, he's saying to himself, what what the hell am I doing in Cleveland if I can make that kind of money out here? Okay. Second part of that story, Ernie was doing his thing, and very successfully, and he goes out there to visit Ernie. They were close friends, and they worked so tightly together. And so he goes to a recording session with Ernie. Ernie's in the room over there, and he's got a pile of commercials. I mean a pile, not that much, but that much. National commercials included, so you can imagine. It's like turning out sausages, expensive sausages. You're just crazy. So inside the room is the director, the engineer, and the agent, and Chuck. And now this was like on a Tuesday, and he found out that Ernie did that sort of a thing, his routine, if you will, twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday. And, you know, making money, you know. And the agent turns to Chuck and says, Chuck, do you have any control over Ernie? And Chuck just, you know, nobody had any control over Ernie. Forget that. But why do you ask? Well, you know, he only comes in Tuesday and Thursday. If we could get him in one more day a week, we could make some, you know, because he got 10% of whatever Ernie made. Hello. But that's the business. So I like to have him one more day a week. We can make some serious money, he said. And Chuck, being curious, says, well, what's he making now? And he said, well, about $1 million a year. And that agent's making $100,000 and he's not happy with it. Partly because he's got to get money back to the agency, but that's another story. So, I mean, and you imagine, this is 1966 or 8 or so, and he's making $1 million a year at that time. He did that for 30 more years. Lived next to Greer Garson, if you remember her, from Mrs. Miniver, you know, right next door to her. He used to set up a white sheet in the backyard, got a projector, and showed his home movies, his skits that he did on the Ghoulardi show. I mean, who does that, you know? I mean, you talk about ego 10 miles wide. But what a talent that man was. I mean, goodness sake. I mean, almost all the top of his head, you know, incredible. But there's one thing that we noticed loud and clear. Ernie loved to drink, right? I mean, not just sip. And there's a bar 2 doors down from on Euclid Avenue where the station was, before it moved out on the freeway. And what you saw on the camera was Ernie doing his thing, a little bit of sound music, and then moving for 10 minutes. Came back, there'd be Ernie again, etc. And this went on, you know, all night, live, you know, on his part. Ad-libbing all this stuff, incredible, what a talent. And so, this one time, I mean, they had the camera, or the TV on in the bar, so he would know roughly when to go. So, he's sitting there, and the rest of us are waiting for Ernie to come back on the air. And we saw him say goodbye for now, blah, 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 a little bit of sound, music to go out on, and then an empty chair. I mean, no, he was in the bar. He's looking at the empty chair on his TV in the bar. And you never saw him. He was not in that good a shape physically. I mean, he played basketball, whatever, but the speed he had to make to get off that bar stool or run back to the station all the time, empty chair, you know, and apologizes profusely. But I mean, he had memos saying Ernie, and he kept, I don't know if he laminated them, but I know I'm going too long.
Well, no, I just wanted, the question was, how did
Did they ever answer the question?
No.
Oh.
How did you ever become the co-host of the show that preceded? you took over after Ghoulardi left.
Okay.
How did you get to do that?
Hi.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, we won't have
been
time
nice
for-
talking to you.
We won't have time for John's answer either. But that's,
To answer the question, don't ever go to be 91. It's horrible. Anyway, so, I mean, who's going to fill Ernie's place? You know, on Friday nights? 75% of the audience. You know, nobody does that. So how you going to, I mean, he's gone. You got to fill it. And people came in to audition in the Ghoulardi makeup. Hair, wig, the whole bit. And try to be Ernie. You can't do that. You're just too strong, you know, as a character. So a few days went by, and all of these people trooping through, trying to, you know, be the coach. And finally, somebody talked to Chuck and said, "Hey, why don't you? I mean, you got this Bob Wells. He's you know, he's done acting. He can be a host, not just the weather. Why don't you guys get up some routines and present them to us?" So Chuck, being the immediate, really, I call him a genius, and he really was, said, "Well, you know, okay, well, so we did some skits, put them on videotape, showed them to the bosses, and they came back. We went back up to the office, and the way he put it was, you know, we really liked your audition tape. Now, what I thought I would be doing was the same thing Ernie did, and have Chuck as my sidekick, and, you know, that relationship. But it didn't go that way, because they said, we like the audition tape. I think we've got a good team here. And I'm going, team? Okay, why not? You know, I mean, he deserves it. So it became the Hoolihan and Big Chuck show. Does that finally answer the question? Finally! Okay.
Mine will be a lot shorter.
You get the impression I like to talk.
Basically, I was on the show with Hoolihan and Chuck for 10 years. I was like the bit player. I was on from like 69 to 79. And then when Hooli left, they asked Chuck, who do you want to pick to do the show? And Chuck picked me. Unbeknownst to me, none of this was ever talked about or anything. And the station manager, Bill Flynn, called the jewelry store. I had a jewelry store, and he said, the secretary called and said, Bill Flynn wants to see you. Now, why the general manager would want to see me? And when you think about it, I went in the back door, went to the studio, and then out the back door. I never went down the hall, I never went upstairs, I never, okay, now I have to go to the third floor. Okay. I've never been to the third floor, I didn't even know where the elevator was. Okay. 10 years been doing this stuff, okay. But most of our skits were on the streets and not that many in the studio at that time. So I go up there and everything, and the secretary said, Mr. Flynn wants to see you, so I go in his office. And I thought it was pretty cool. He's sitting there watching three televisions, 3, 5, and 8. He's watching all 3. So he turns around to me and he says, hey kid. He says, yeah, no, he called me kid and he called Chuck Polak. We'd be walking down the hall and he said, hey kid, and a Polak. Okay, like this. I liked Flynn. Flynn was a good guy. So, but anyway, he says, I'd just like to be the co-host with Big Chuck. I said, yeah. He goes, okay, go down the hall and give the interview to Ray Hart, who was the press reporter. So I did. So I came back to the jewelry store, and my wife, I said, hey, I'm the co-host of the show. And she goes, really, how much money are you making? I said, I don't know.
I got a quick question for you, John. With when the show was ending, when Hooli left, did you think that the show was going to be over?
Right. There was never any talk about me taking over, or no, nothing. Not one word. And again, Chuck and I lasted all these years. We still don't have a contract. We never signed a contract. No, we never signed a contract. And we used to look back then. Now everything's computerized and thing. But they used to put a little bulletin out, like for the next 3 weeks of programming, and we flip through it to make sure we're still on. You know? But Chuck was the genius of the show, as Bob will tell you and everything. Everything looks ad-lib, none of it was ad-lib. That was all scripted. And you had to follow that script to the T. But that's how it went. And Chuck was nervous at first because here he had a guy next to him that had no talent. Okay, I mean, I was a jewelry store salesman. Okay, where before he had a partner that is very talented and could do it. He could act. He could do things. He could do accents. I could only talk. Okay, so. He was very apprehensive at first, and to show you, like they used to sing "Happy Birthday" on birthday. Okay, well then we continued it for about 2 weeks, and Chuck said, "You can't sing." I'm the only Italian you'll ever meet that can't sing. So anyway, we scratched that. Chuck scratched that, and we started to play music instead. So, but it worked. We were a good team together. He was Mr. Inside, I was Mr. Outside. He did all the writing. In fact, we have over 2,000 skits. I thought of 6. And I think they were the 6 funniest. But anyway. So, anyway, it worked for us. He did all the writing and producing and everything. And on the outside, I did all the scheduling of the personal appearances, the softball games, the basketball games. Basically what you did, same thing. So, yeah, that's how it all started. By an accident.
At the risk of asking Bob a question, how did Bob Wells become Hoolihan?
Oh, okay. That's an easy one, and that's asked quite often. Before I showed up, in 1965, this fella was promotion manager at the station. He goes to Chicago for a promotion manager's convention. And while he's there, 1965, maybe 3 or 4 stations in the market. Well, TV Guide needed information, to fill out the pages, and they've only got 3 or 4 stations. That's not enough. So they started using outlying areas, including Peoria, Illinois, as sources for news, weather, sports, or whatever might else have happened. And so this guy at night, nothing else to do, looking through TV Guide, and here's Peoria, and here's the news guy, here's the sports guy, and here's the weatherman. It was like Joe Hoolihan - weatherman. And he's thinking, Hoolihan, the weatherman, that's pretty catchy, Goes home, forgets all about it. I come in a year later, and now they decided, for whatever taste they thought I had, that I would be their weatherman. Sense of humor, what did it. So anyway, I got the word from my friend who was also looking for another job and got it at Channel 8. And he calls me and he says, I've got good news and bad news. Tell me the good news. Well, they like you. They like your audition. They want to hire you. Well, great. What's the bad news? They want to call you Hoolihan, the weatherman. Well, if you're on television or anything, even Dave Binkley sits there with an ego, a mile wide. You want to see how your name will go as far in the industry as you can. And I'm just taking a sharp turn into a stage name. Who's gonna ever know me? Whatever, the silly things that go through your head. Anyway, I asked him, is it set? I mean, are they really firm on the Hoolihan thing? He says, yeah. All right, I'll be Hoolihan. Well, if you're liked, people find out very quickly what your real name is. And it has been a wonderful relationship. I mean, hello. What would we do without you as fans? You don't have a show. We love you. So, anyway, thank you.
Do you know how many both of you did a lot of personal appearances? Do you have any idea how many personal appearances you did? I mean, all the fundraising and the superstars from Ghoulardi on. Because you even did the Ghoulardi All-Stars, did you not? At all?
The other thing I did with Ernie. Hello. Anyway, the only thing I did with Ernie was the Ghoulardi All-Stars. had, well, some of you were wearing the Ghoulardi shirts and all that. Football, basketball, you know, softball, whatever was in season, as it were, we did. And I played, I was just thinking of a story I don't want to tell you, so never mind, don't ask me why I quit. Anyway, it was fun because I never got a chance in high school to play sports. I was intermediate, in middle school. I played as a running back, and I dropped the ball once. The guy hit me and popped out of my arms, and they got the ball or whatever. And he benched me. Well, I never played again. Thanks a lot. Give me a chance here. I'm only 13 or whatever. Anyway, so basically the only time I ever had a relationship with, unlike Chuck, who got Parma batting coach and the Parma place and handsome downstairs neighbor Terry Kriegel and all, Ernie never invited me to do that, except there was this one time he wanted a voice like Lawrence Welk, who we had on our show later, by the way. And there I am, all you heard was me. Wonderful, wonderful. It's a wonderful night to be, whatever. I think I did with Ernie. So I admired the heck out of him, but we didn't work together.
Me? I never worked with Ernie. No, I never, personal appearances. But no, I want to say back, I'm going to answer those personal appearances, but I never worked with Ernie, but Chuck and I went to California to interview Ernie. Okay, so all I heard was stories from Chuck about Ernie, and the cameraman that went with us, Casey Casarda, he worked with Ernie. So I figured, okay, I heard about this, he lives in Studio City next to Cuyahoga or wherever it was. He lived next door to and everything. So here we pull up to this house, this big house. It's got a gate in front, and you can tell it's electronic that opens and everything. Big stone wall around this thing. So I said, yeah, pretty cool. So the gate opens and Ghoulardi walks out, Ghoulardi walks out, Ernie Anderson walks out, and he goes to Chuck, he goes, it's about time you visited. He's had a cup of coffee in his hand. The gate was only open like this much. You're like, don't you invite us in or anything like that? So finally got us in there, and I'm looking around, and he's got little miniature ponies running in his yard. His yard's a mess. And he had a Mexican landscaper, I don't know what he did. And then you go in his house and everything, the house is a mess. And you look at the house and you go, sometime when he got drunk, he must have met aluminum siding salesman, because the house is stucco, and then there's an out thing of like an attachment of aluminum siding, and then he must have met a brick salesman, because over here is another extension of his house, and these houses in the Studio City are beautiful. I mean, so anyway, I met him and everything like that, and we went to do a commercial with him and everything. So we get in the back seat of the car, and he says, I was in the back seat, and Ernie sat next to me, and I just heard on the radio the Dodgers had sold out their game for like the 400th time or something like that. He goes, what do you guys want to do tonight? And I said, I want to go to the Dodgers game. And he goes, what do you think this is, Cleveland? He says, hold on a second. So he tells Casey, pull over here. And there were no cell phones then. He had to go to a pay phone and put dimes in. Okay. He goes, okay, Casey, go here, because Casey was driving. And went to Harvey Korman's house. Okay. We sit in the driveway. He goes in, he comes out, he's got 4 tickets to the Dodgers game. And so that's how he went to the cop. So now we get in the back seat, he tells him, go here, go here, go here. And so he has him stop at a liquor store. So I go in with him and everything like that, and I come out first, and he comes out, and he's got like 3 bottles of liquor, and I had a little pint. And he looks at me and he goes, is everything you do little? So back to the question. I forgot now. Oh, personal appearances. No, I do not know the exact number, but in our heyday, like October was like Christmas. We did like 27 personal appearances in 30 days. Okay. And Chuck and I probably averaged 3 to 4 a week until the end. But we were very, very busy. And, so I never did add it up. But I will say this, it sent my kids to college.
I got a question. Okay.
Not TV8, personal appearances.
During the time of the Hoolihan and Big Chuck show and the Big Chuck show, you guys could pretty much roll not just Cleveland but Northeast Ohio, do skits. I'm not sure how Chuck arranged it or who did. Some of the places, because you guys did the bathtub in the middle of the street at one time and other things along those lines where how did you get permission? And of all the skits that you guys did that were in crazy locations, why don't you two talk just a little bit about that?
Well, as far as permission, we didn't ask for it. and that's true. We couldn't do them now because there's too many laws. Like, okay, let's go in the fountain on Mall C. Okay, let's go to Mountain Fall C. We'd go in. Now you get arrested. Okay. And it doesn't matter. But back then you tell a policeman, hey, block this road so we could do this. Hey, the policeman blocked the road. Hey, can we have 2 squad cars? Yeah, bring 2 squad cars. You can't do that anymore. You just can't do it anymore. And some of the things that we had to set up, like when you had to really block streets, like when we did the streak or a certain show and everything like that, we'd call the police department in the city and say, hey, we're going to be here on such and such a time. We just need the street blocked for 10 minutes, so we can do this, and then the next street blocked for 10 minutes. It was never a problem. Now you got to fill out forms. You got you just can't. You can't.
Wow.
I don't know how many of you saw when I did that football toss on Fox 8 into the truck. Okay, that was on the roof of Channel 8. Okay, well we used to go on the roof all the time to watch the air show. Remember? Now you're not allowed on the roof. Okay. So Chuck and I did a skit where we walked the railing of the roof, okay, and back to back and everything like that. And we were very safe. We tied a rope around each other's waist. We were very safe, and we're very young. I mean, young and dumb. So I had to go up there to drop this football. They dropped this football if it lands in a truck. So. Anyway, I go up there, and when we did the skit, there was a cameraman and Chuck and I. Well, now there was the news director, they had Sky Fox, they had a cameraman down below, the cameraman over here, they had a director, and I go, what's this for? And I go, I'm dropping a football, okay? and the sports announcer was doing this, okay? So, and then there were 3 paving bricks that when I had to climb up on the roof before we used, they were still there 30 years later. They never moved. Okay. So I said, and I started climbing on it. The guy goes, no, you can't do that. I go, they can't see me over the railing. Okay. So I said, I'm not gonna jump. And all they said was, if you fall, the paperwork that we have to do. Nobody is worried about me getting killed. We're worried about the paperwork. So to answer your question, no, we didn't have permission to do anything.
Well, as you were talking, I was thinking of some things that happened. Talking about being on the rail, and when you got to and you did this again with Chuck, and we're both on you can't see it on the camera, but it's just Chuck, the back of his head, and I would say something, and he'd turn around, and then you'd see who it was. And he's saying, well, I don't think I want to do this. Hey, listen, this is set up. You're going to walk 10 paces, turn and fire. And I'll do the same. Well, okay, and then the camera widens out, and we're on this railing about that wide, only 1 foot almost, 1 foot ahead of the other. And that was our skit. And of course, he didn't do the walking. But I got to thinking later, what the hell were we thinking? You know, and you did the same thing.
Young and dumb. I see. Let me tell you, that was did a lot of dumb things.
Well, were you scared? I mean, all that
No,
really?
no, not at all, not at all. I mean,
Really?
again, young and dumb, I can walk. It's a foot and a half wide. You can walk a foot and a half. I mean, it's not a big deal. Okay, so now I need a sidewalk with railings.
Yeah, all right. You know, one thing about John that I've always admired, and it was Chuck now, we had a skit called Bridget the Midget, right?
That was my first skit.
Yeah, and here he is with a mustache and long hair, and he's singing Bridget the Midget. And it worked perfectly because he was short. You know, he hasn't grown any, so he's still short. By the way,
Really?
do I get to go to the technical terms? What I mean, people would assume that you're a midget,
No, I'm not.
but he's not. No, don't tell him. And he's not a dwarf because he's not, you know, a different form. He's just very short.
I'm a diminutive person.
Yeah. If you're a little taller than 4 feet, you are.
A diminutive person.
There you go. But anyway, so when we first sorted out, his skits were basically based on his height. And then Chuck got to realizing, hey, we got a good actor here. So it didn't make any difference anymore. By the way, is Big Stosh here?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
He's here?
He's here.
Oh, cool.
He's four tables away from you.
Oh, okay, yeah, I did talk with him.
Yes,
Good Lord.
and he did come and see you. Yes.
Well, I meant right here, but anyway, okay. But here we have Tiny Tim, I want to call it. Bad joke. You know, doing all these skits, and he's working with Big Stosh, who was like, what, 3 feet taller than you?
At least.
He was like 6'4", I think, and
He's
you're
still
4'2".
He's there.
Well, okay, you could do the math. But I mean, and you did that so perfectly, the timing and, you know, the color on the phrasing. So, I mean, good actor we got here.
Well, that skit was the half-headed lettuce skit that he's talking about. That was one of the ones I wrote. I just thought I'd tell you. But in all fairness, I saw Flip Wilson do it in Vegas. and that's where I got the thing. I heard, hey Chuck, let me tell you about this skit. But I take credit for it that I wrote it, okay?
Well, you borrow only from the best sources, you know.
I think I have a few minutes left. Why don't we take questions?
Rather than hand the microphone, ask your question. Could each of you tell us your favorite skit working with Big Chuck right now?
28 years, no problem.
The question was about favorite from each of them, their favorite skit working with Big Chuck.
I do not have a favorite skit. And everybody asks me that at every appearance. I do not have a favorite color. I do not have a favorite restaurant. I do not have a favorite food. I do not have a favorite skit. I don't have a favorite song. I don't have anything favorite. I like a lot of things.
Well, I'm pretty much the same way, you know, it's hard to be objective with all the things that we did together. But one that stands out in my mind is one that I was not even in, but I was there, King of the Wonder Dog. Remember that? And the gimmick was, I mean, this dog, Rowdy, Rhodesian Ridgeback, beautiful dog, very obedient, very consistent in the whole thing. And you remember when he was jumping, and he jumped over the stream and came up the other side, you know, rehearsal. He does it perfectly. He's right at the edge of the leading, you know, the stream. Jumps across cleanly, runs up, and oh, that's good, Rowdy. Let's do that again. More rehearsal, did it perfectly. Now we're going to do it live, or on videotape. He gets to within a foot of the edge, And of course, that's too short. He bangs his nose in the mud on the other side of the, and of course we use that. We're doing, no problem. So anyway, here we are, and now we're at the point where at the end of the run by the dog is to jump over Chuck. Dog does not want to run over Chuck. He wants to side. I guess, I don't know what dogs think, but is that rude or what? Anyway, so if we do that a couple times, we realize we gotta have help here. So I stood on one side of Chuck, out of the side of the camera, and I think it was one of Chuck's sons was on the other side, and we kind of squeezed in. Come on. And sure enough, over he goes, and he's, the log is on his leg and the whole bit, he can't move. And it's like, what the hell, you dog? And guess what? There, of all the stuff that Chuck created, my only participation was things like I'm about to tell you, because his skits were so timed so well, so perfectly written so well. I mean, it was, he even let me, edit some of the films. It was so easy. It was just all the footage you needed. Anyway, so he comes up, and he's like, look on his face, and he's got a paw print on his face. That was my idea. So I got to participate in that regard. No credit, but there it was. I knew I did that.
Didn't have a favorite. Do you have a most?
I would say my most memorable would be Troglodytes. That was the fourth skit I ever did, and it was done in Hinkley Lake. And if you remember the big Bertha Button, okay. I met that lady that day, and she lived next door to Chuck. And the day later, she moved. True story, she was planning on moving by this thing. So that's why she consented to do the skit. She goes, nobody's okay. But anyway, I had to run down into the water and chase the girl and everything like that. And I never told Chuck I couldn't swim. But again, I'm only running from here to him, and then you fall down and everything like that, because they're not gonna film me running. So, but he did it at a boat ramp. So I go, whoop, boom. With the first two times we did it, I just ran to here, and then Chuck says, you just gotta run a little farther. So I did, and I go, boom, straight down. Now Chuck's over here directing everything going on. If it wasn't for his son Michael, who was 16 at the time, that saw me, he came in and pulled me out. There might not have been a little John. In the meantime, he knows I can't swim. You know how many skits we did in the water? And never in the summer. He'd call in October. Oh, I got this great skit. I go, it's October.
Have any of you ever swum in a lake or whatever in October and go underwater? Yeah. Were you finished with your story?
Yes.
Okay. Similar thing. We did this thing, it was a satire on a commercial. These huge balls of newspaper, the big rolls that they use. And the thing was that I had the good brand of a pen. And what we did, right downtown, with the police helping us, cutting off traffic, went across the street and all that, to go down to Euclid, or down on the pier. And the deal was that he had brand X, and I had the good brand. Hello? And there we are, on our hands and knees, scribbling on the back of this paper, and with our feet rolling behind us. I mean, we did that at several of the shots to just set up the concept. Well, we got it down on the pier, and again, it's like October, right? And so his pen runs out of ink. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what happens next now? I win. So I gotta go in the water. So, it's like, wait a minute. can we redo this thing? Can we rewrite this on the spot? You know, I know it's going to be cold down there. Excuse me, I think I screwed it up the other way around. Chuck, we'll throw it down. Well, anyway, the idea was that now he is going to go into the water, laughs, I won, and he goes in the water. Now I'm already down there, I'm splashing around. And he said, well, wait a minute, before I go in, would you mind going in and checking it? See if there's any obstacles down there, some spiky stuff that I might hit and hurt myself. Well, I didn't even bring a towel. I mean, come on, what do you want from me? You know, it's okay, I'll do it. So I got to the edge of the pier and looked down. I couldn't see anything down there, so I just jumped in. Now I asked, have you ever swum? Have you ever dived into water that was like 45 degrees? I've never screamed underwater before. Like, oh my God, it's a terrible thing. Anyway, so that was my contribution. And then Chuck, now, he saw my reaction. I think he was a little reluctant, but he went ahead and did it himself. That's the kind of guy he was. So he wanted to finish the project and get it on film. But, you know, we had some great times together. I mean, I can't think of, that one just comes to mind, you know, working together closely. But I mean, all the, you know how many skits you did in that 28 years?
No, I don't. Total between you and I and everybody, over 2,000 skits.
Isn't that something?
As we're talking numbers here, talking about a number of awards. How many awards have you won, John? And what were they?
Well, I have every award that could be awarded in Northeast Ohio, and Chuck does too. Except the only one I don't have is the Governor's Award, and you have to die to get that. So I hope I don't get that one. And plus, I've been off TV too much, and I'm not with the union as much as I was. So they're the ones that vote who gets the Governor's Award. But I've had all of them, and I have 12 Emmys. Okay, and I have to tell you that was 12 for the show and everything like that. And Chuck had 27. And everybody thinks that Chuck is Big Chuck or thing. He was a phenomenal producer and a director, and he won for like the Singing Angels specials, and he would do the specials. Plus, he was a news director and things like that. And a very, very talented guy. And if you're around, stick your head in the. Oh, that's an Emmy. That's one of Chuck's Emmys. And if you come by my table, I have an Emmy too, just sitting there. Okay. We sort of carry these around like keychains. But anyway, the Shock Theater is over here. I don't know how many people saw it or anything, but they're showing constant clips of our stuff and everything like that. And at the end, and I don't know where it's at right now, is the tribute that was given to Big Chuck.
I think I had, well, here's the thing. I realized a little bit later as these awards are being given out, that Chuck had already gotten a couple, and then Chuck submitted one that I was in, featured in, called the Parma School of Broadcasting, okay? And it was like 5-6 minutes long. And we submitted that, and they kicked it back and said, that's too long. Didn't even consider it. And I don't know what Chuck was thinking, but he never bothered submitting any more of my stuff. So I finally got, all right, what?
Need I say more? Okay.
Anyway, I finally got an honorary award. And then I finally called one time, I mean, everybody you could think of. So, they got all these awards down through the years. And for longevity and contributing to the community by way of being on television or radio or whatever. Here, what the hell am I? Chopped liver? I mean, I've been around here or whatever. And finally, so I think I told Chuck or somebody, I said, could I be considered for that? I said, well, yeah, I thought you had one. No. Well, I got one the next year, and it's a very nice award, you know. Legends of Cleveland Broadcasting. I'm proud of that, you know.
And the Silver Circle Award you should have, but that's, you have to be in air so many years, and you have to be so old to get it. And they called me one year and told me you won the award. And I said, really? Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then like 2 weeks before, they called me and said, you're not eligible.
Yeah, thanks.
I go, I'm not. We said we didn't know how young you were at the time when you started. You're not old enough. So I had to wait 3 more years to get the award. That was a Silver Circle.
You know, of the skits that you've done, I mean, there are some favorites we all have, you know. And Big Stash, and that thing you had as you were a clerk at the grocery store, and this big, tall dude comes in and wants a head of lettuce. But he didn't really mean that. He wanted half a head. Well, you tell the story.
Well, it's the same story you heard about 4 minutes ago. Okay, so I just thought I'd tell you. Anyway, the whole skit is, guy comes in the store, for those of you who haven't seen it or anything, and Chuck's putting things in the counter, and I'm on the produce thing, and this guy comes in, big guy, and he goes, do you have any lettuce? And I said, yeah. And show him, he goes, I want a half a head of lettuce. I go, a half a head? Not a whole head? He goes, a half a head of lettuce. So I go over to Chuck, I go, hey Chuck, you got a big knife? He goes, what do you need a big knife for? I said, some ugly, dumb jerk wants it, and I turn around in the stash and I go, wants a half a head of lettuce, and this guy wants the other half. That was the skit.
We left out a word. This fine gentleman.
Yeah.
He wants the other half.
On that note, we're going to leave these fine gentlemen a chance to get a little bit of rest, something to drink, because there's more things they got to sign. So, a round of applause for these legends.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you all for coming too. And I'm speaking for you here too. Without you, the fans, we'd be nothing.